Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the 1970 film Kelly's Heroes. Now, like most Americans, I've seen a lot of World War II films. And while I've enjoyed some of them, I enjoyed them because they were good films that happened to be set in World War II, rather than films that I sought out because they were about World War II. But of those films, this is one of my favorite. Kelly's Heroes stars Clint Eastwood as Kelly, and he leads a madcap group of individuals whose goal is to get 30 miles behind an enemy line because at that location is a whole bunch of Nazi gold. And if they can get their hands on it before the U.S. military gets there, it's all theirs. Now, I always felt that Clint Eastwood's role in this was very flat. He just didn't really seem to connect. And when I was watching it years before, I always thought it was because it was an ensemble cast, and a lot of different characters going on, and maybe he just didn't really click with that kind of a film. But I read up a little on the film before I did this video, and apparently he signed on to do the movie because another director was supposed to direct the movie. But that director had to bow out because of some other obligations, and a new director was brought in, by which time Eastwood had already signed up. He couldn't get out, so he had to do the movie. So he may have been a little flat because he didn't want to make the film. Now, Telly Savalas, though, he's there. He did a wonderful job in this movie. I really liked his character a great deal. It reminded me a lot of the character from The Dirty Dozen, where he played an insane man. It was wonderful. And Donald Sutherland is great in this movie. In fact, he's even become a meme over on Fark, where his tagline of "Why always with the negative waves" has become very popular on that particular website, the threads in the discussions. And he, in the film, his character's name's Oddball, riffs off another actor, Gavin MacLeod, who plays his mechanic. And the two of them are in charge of 3 Sherman tank unit. And the two of them really play counterculture characters from 25 years in the future, acting with their language and their attitude, their slang, as though it were 1969 or 1970, which was when this film was made. And I've always seen them as an homage to the soldiers in the field during the filming of the movie, because they very much would have fit right in with a film being filmed in '69 about Southeast Asia. But for me, the best part of this whole movie, and I love caper films. Caper films are great, but the best part of this movie is Don Rickles. Because while he may be really great at voice work, as Toy Story, he's recently, I commented about his voice work there as Mr. Potato Head. So much of what he brings is in his face and his body language. It's not just his voice. And he was a young guy 40 years ago. It was just so nice to see him. I so much enjoyed his work. I really have to start digging up some of his other films. I enjoy him as an actor. He's a great stand-up comedian, but I enjoy him as an actor so much. And the basic premise is, this tight little unit wants to get across the enemy line to get to the gold. Well, as the unit moves, they need help. And as they need help, the unit gets larger and larger. And they're thinking, oh no, our money's going to get divided to the point where it's meaningless. Well, they get a chance near the third act to thrust forward and make a grab at the gold for good. Now, this is a war film. There is combat, there are deaths. Some of the Americans are wounded and killed. But for every American wounded or killed in this, there are like 24 Nazis killed. A whole lot of dead Nazis. And when the film finally gets to the last thrust, they've taken the city. They just have to get to that bank. There's one Tiger tank left, and they can't take it out. None of their vehicles are able to perform. They don't have any portable weapons that could take the Tiger tank out, so they do the one thing they can do. They appeal to the crew's greed. They walk forward. They talk to the tank commander. And the tank commander's like, I'm not surrendering to the U.S. military. And they're like, we're not the U.S. military. We are a private enterprise. And it says, this is the deal. There's a bunch of gold in there. And all you have to do to get an equal share in that gold is turn your turret around and open that door. And the next scene is the door blows open. And they all rush in, they grab their gold. All the while, the U.S. Army is marching into the city behind them. And as they're buggering off with their wealth, the Army moves in, and it's all victorious. All townspeople screaming, yelling. They think it's de Gaulle. So it was a madcap film, a lot of fun. Now, at the end of the film, they figure out that each of the soldiers gets $875,000 in 1945 dollars. If you bring that up to today's dollars, that's over $10 million apiece. Not a bad day's change. Now, apparently, the amount of gold discussed in the film, if you actually figured it out for real, it wasn't a $16 million pot divided between these guys. It was more like a $196 million pot, so they got the numbers wrong. And, even cooler, this was apparently based on a real story. A bunch of renegade Nazis and American officers joined forces to steal a whole bunch of gold near the end of the war, which, kind of makes me smile. So if you enjoy not overly serious World War II films and just great caper movie, Kelly's Heroes can't be beat.